what is up? It is me, Prince of What Ifs, and I am back here with another video. Today we are doing What If Asta Was a Conduit. And in case some of you might not know, the infamous Second Son, the game, this is about that. The main character, who was Delson, has about 4 abilities: concrete, video, smoke, and neon. And they're all very different. Go watch like the gameplay on YouTube. It's a pretty fun to watch the cutscenes and watch him gain new powers. So yeah, we'll be doing that today. And as we go along the story, I'll try to like explain all the powers and everything. But yeah, that's all I have to say. So let's just jump right into the what if. So after Delson, our main character, as he did in the game, defeated the final boss and united everyone, and making people think different about conduits, who were people with abilities, or bioterrorists. And after he did all of that, he was just chilling in his house playing video games, when out of nowhere he was transported to what he thought was another world, but it was just years in the future, where people got over conduits and bioterrorists and everything, and learned magic as it became a new source of power. But obviously he didn't know that, and he just kept on exploring and figuring things out until he goes to the Spade Kingdom on one of his journeys. Honestly, he's very strong in this world, and nobody could really fuck with him. Eventually, he did meet a woman in the Spade Kingdom, and they got married and had Asta. And due to the same things that happened in the original, they were attacked, and unfortunately, he had to give up his life to help Asta just leave. And so did his wife, so they both died. And then the priest still finds Asta and Yuno with their names placed there, and once the father takes them inside, Asta still aggressively kicks him in the face, and the father says, "Jeez, were kids always this strong?" Asta is gonna live a pretty normal life until the day when Yuno was being harassed by the drunkard. Asta goes up telling the man to give back Yuno's pendant, and the man then takes him, but to Yuno and the man's surprise, Asta appears above him, leaving a trail of just darkness, and he lands back down on his butt. This is his smoke ability, which allows him to go intangible and fly for a bit. And then the man opens up his Grimoire and uses a fireball, which Asta just extends his hand out in fear and shooting like a dark ball. It's like a dark ball that looked like magic, but it was just a smoke ability. I'll just call it a smoke blast. He shot out a smoke blast and ended up hitting the man, which sends him back really far, and he drops the pendant. And Asta then grabs it, and and they run away. And after they stopped running for a while because they were out of breath, asked Asta, "What the hell was that? I don't sense any magic. How did you do that?" And Asta said that he doesn't know, but it's pretty awesome though. We're gonna time skip to when Asta is 7 and he has figured out most of his abilities. When he absorbs darkness, he can use it to run at super speed, leaving a trail just like the ability Neon. And when he absorbs smoke, he can recharge his energy, not that he needs to like Delson, and can just keep on going, but when he recharges, his attacks are more powerful and can go intangible at his own will, but he does always stay intangible, but I will introduce certain things that can hurt him. But magic doesn't hurt him most of the time. And he can shoot blasts and can also, slightly fly. And he has also shown signs of being able to use concrete and uses it to immobilize animals when he goes to hunt for training, meaning that almost every single day he brings like a ton of animals back to the village, keeping them pretty full. And sometimes they would sell it and they would just have a lot of things. Still, people wonder how he could do all this without any magic, but they just left him alone because Asta wasn't hurting nobody, so yeah. We're gonna time skip 3 more years, and Asta and Yuno start training together with Yuno never winning a spar, but he is getting stronger. Asta also starts to use concrete more, and that means that he does know how to use his terrain as to his advantage, but he never really uses it fully, like making it pop out of Yuno's bones and fracturing him, because they're just training, and he only uses it like an ultimate defense move. And he can also use it to reinforce his body and create an armor around him, so he's Yeah. And since it is concrete, it's a harder substance than earth magic. Yuno finds it really hard to break. And yeah, that's about it. And as for his neon ability, he is so fast now that he leaves after images when he runs and can shoot incredibly fast dark beams. It's the same thing like smoke, but you know, if you see the game, you know what I mean. And he's also an excellent hunter because he's kind of like a sniper. And Asta is also taller than Yuno because Delson in Infamous wasn't short at all. And for the last 5 years, he develops his video ability, and the only things that he can mostly do right now is summon swords. So he can also you know, summon wings, and they're dark, obviously. And he can also summon a large sword, which is way stronger and way heavier. So he uses it to train his muscles way more and more and more, getting way more muscular than the original, and just getting more adept at using a sword. And he also learns to coat his sword and release like a wave of smoke. It's like a slash, like Yami. He kind of develops a style of fighting like Yami. And he also has a laid back attitude. Although he does stay the same physically as in the anime, he changes mentally, meaning that he is more calm and he doesn't yell as much because I don't like that. Now he is of age for the Grimoire ceremony, and him and Yuno head to the tower for, you know, getting their grimoires. And as they arrive, they get looks of disgust from nobles, but they don't really care and just get ready to receive their grimoires. Yuno still gets his 4-leaf, with nobles being jealous. However, Asta gets nothing, and people start laughing. And Asta just walks away with his hand in his pocket and saying, doesn't really matter. I'm stronger than all of them anyway. When he gets close to the entrance, he just sprouts his wing and then flies to the sky for some fun, leaving everyone but Yuno's jaw just dropping because they really can't sense any magic from him, which makes him very abnormal, and they don't know what to really think of this. As Asta was flying with a huge smile on his face, just kind of having fun, he looks down to see Yuno being attacked by the chain mage, who wraps him in a chain and takes his grimoire. As soon as he sees this, he drops down, sending a black wave everywhere that knocks back the chain mage, which blasts him into the wall and leaving a dent in it. And then Asta grabs Yuno's grimoire. Then Asta looks and says, "What the hell do you think you're doing to my brother?" The chain mage gets up pissed and sends multiple chains to try and wrap him, but they just pass through him, and Asta instantly appears behind the chain mage and just uses pure physical strength and smacks him down with a punch. And he thought it was over, and he stepped over him and headed towards to free Yuno. And the mage gets up and says, "You little brat, how dare you?" And at that moment, the 5-leaf grimoire comes out and stops in front of Asta, revealing the anti-magic sword. The mage says, "A 5-leaf? Oh, now I'm never letting you escape." He prepares his strongest attack and throws it at Asta. Asta then grabs the Demon Slayer's sword, and out of habit he infuses it with smoke, which also helps him control his anti-magic. And he just shoots like a wave of anti-magic at the attack, which weakens it and has kind of a reddish color, and also hits the anti-mage as it passes through the magic, and just knocks him out for good when it hits him in the stomach. And then the mage is dragged away and blah blah blah, and Asta says that he is definitely keeping this. Then him and Yuno fist bump, starting their rivalry for real to be Wizard King. After this, the two train separately for a month, and during this, Asta still gets to meet his sword master. And since Asta can make heavier, bigger swords, he got more benefits, and his master gave him a sword named Ikatana from a far away continent. Also, he practiced using smoke to manipulate his anti-magic more, and develops a fighting style exactly like Yami. Because at this point, I feel like I'm just copying Yami's character. And he trains to use his abilities way more, and he doesn't need to charge at all. But when he does, now they're even more calamity-like and are very, very, very strong. Yuno still, just trains on magic control and such, and yeah, that's about it. And then they set off after a month and leave with the kids crying because their brothers are leaving, but they're also proud because, you know, they're moving up in the world. Yuno uses a broom and Asta uses his wings, so they get there way faster. And when they arrive, they check in and both of them get scared, like a lot of stares from women. And they actually think that Asta looks better than Yuno. And Yuno doesn't know what's going on, but Asta knows exactly what's going on but doesn't really care. So when they show their grimoires as well, they're just completely shocked and surprised that two commoners have a 4 and 5 leaf clovers, even though Asta's was very hard to make out because his grimoire looked very old. And they enter, and Asta starts just looking around and says, "We made it, you know." And then Asta starts looking around everywhere. Accidentally, he bumps into Yami, who then grabs his head and tries to pull him up and says, "You wanna die, kid?" Asta then activates his concrete onto Yami's elbow area, which makes him drop Asta in pain. And then at this point, everyone is staring at them. And then Asta says, "Don't touch me, old man, unless you want to fight right now." Yami smirking unleashes his katana, and so does Asta. And Yami was going to ask how Asta has a katana, but the other captains stopped him and said that he's being really immature and it's not a good thing to show this kind of side to, well, kids. And then he just unsheathes his sword and walks away while saying, "You got lucky, kid." Asta then leaves getting ready for the test, and first it is the magic birds, which obviously tried to peck Asta, but this time they're just passing through, and it's just this really weird scene. He just looks really inhuman because like when they pass through him, all they see is just this weird substance going everywhere, but they can't get him. Of course, Nero just like tries to sit on him as well, and he just allows it. And as Asta receives his broom for the second test, he just throws it away, which everyone just thinks, is he just giving up? And then out of nowhere, he creates his wings and blasts off, soaring through the sky. And then Yuno flies up really easily, and people still can't sense any magic from Asta. Next was the target exam, which Yuno did easily. And when Asta came up, he just kind of thinks and comes up with a new idea, creating a bow and arrow with, manipulating his anti-magic, and then throws it and releases it, hitting all the targets. And, then it's the fighting portion. And, no, it's the creation portion. And this time he just creates a statue kind of resembling the Wizard King, but not really because he hasn't done this before, so it looks really weird. And they don't know if they can count it as creation magic, but just leave it. And then it's time for the fighting portion, and this time Seke doesn't even want to get close because even if he can't sense any magic, Asta just looks way too strong and he looks really built. And this time a different noble shows up and has fire magic just like the drunkard, and steps up to challenging him while thinking, "Oh, if I fight against this loser, I'll be able to have an easy fight." And they both stand in the middle of the area as the noble throws a huge fireball at Asta. However, in one swift move, as Asta unsheathes his katana, he suddenly appears behind the noble with huge fireball being dispersed, and after being cut, the noble is gushing out blood and just falls down while passing out, and they have to call in medics. And Asta yells out to Yuno, "I don't think we really need to try against these guys. They're pretty weak." This makes everyone pretty mad and scared, but also kind of shocked because they couldn't keep up with his speed alone, and neither could the captains, and they could just barely see it. And Yami's particularly interested, among other people. And next, Yuno meets the same row and just beats his ass. And now it's time for the selections. As everyone goes up, most of them aren't getting many hands, and some are, and they're just getting nervous. And Yuno and Asta are just fine. Yuno goes up and gets all hands, and of course with the Golden Dawn, he goes with the Golden Dawn. And when Asta goes up, he only has 3 hands, which are Frigolion, Yami, and Jack the Ripper. Jack the Ripper is from the Mantis, I think? The Green Mantises, yes. And when he looks up, He says that he'll go with the Black Bulls, and this confuses everyone as Fegolian asks, why did you choose the Black Bulls? They're the lowest rank in the order of the Magic Knights. And Yami is just like, hey, calm down. You don't need to ridicule me like that. And Asta says, because I want to rematch with that guy. And Yami just looks at him and says, oh, I like you, kid. After this all happened, Yuno and Asta go their separate ways, and Asta goes through Finral's magic portal, and they arrive at the Black Bulls. Then Yami opens up the door as everyone looks behind to see Asta, and both Vanessa and Charmy start fangirling over him, and Asta is pretty annoyed at Vanessa, who's just burping alcohol in his face. And instead of, pushing away Charmy like he was doing to Vanessa, he accepted a cookie from her, which he tasted and said was pretty good and made her blush a little bit. And then Luck comes up with his psychopathic ass, just being a weirdo, and asks for a fight with this weird ass smile. And Asta just refuses and challenges Yami instead. And Yami says to Magna that it's time for the baptism, but this time he's taking his place. Every Black Bull is just kind of confused because what the hell did this kid do to piss off Yami this much? And the two step outside for the baptism and both get ready to fight. And then when the fight starts, when Yami permits it, they just kind of both disappear with like a Dragon Ball like effect and fighting through the air with the katanas. And Yami actually is at a disadvantage in speed here because Neon is a pretty fast thing, and he's Asta is blinding Yami with his after image technique and just kind of getting the upper hand. And then they start like just keep hitting and eventually they back away from each other. And as soon as Yami's a little distracted, Asta uses his Neon ability and appears right in front of him and then slashes down as hard as he can. Obviously Yami blocks it, and then out of nowhere Asta just round kicks his face. And when Yami tries to block it, Asta activates concrete in his elbow again, which didn't let him block anything, and then he was sent away. And when Yami tried to get up, he was really pissed. He just got hit in the freaking stomach with a smoke shot, and then just kept getting hit, and then starts to get pissed off and activates his black hole and sucks up all of what he thinks is magic, but it's not. Asta then just says, hey Captain, let's end this with a bang. Yami smirks as he prepares his dimension slash, and Asta creates a huge sword, just completely infused with anti-magic, and this shocks Yami and Noelle, who's watching from far away, who thinks that Asta is a noble, but he's not. And then Asta and Yami throw their attacks with their waves, just hitting each other and clashing, and obviously Asta's cuts through because of anti-magic and then heads for Yami, but Yami just dodges it. And then when everyone looks as like the smoke kind of clears from the aftermath of the attack, Asta is slightly breathing heavy, but not that much. And Yami is also slightly breathing heavy, and they don't really know who won. And then the both of them just start laughing. And Yami says, welcome to the squad, kid. Asta then gets surrounded by the other Black Bulls who are amazed and also asking him why Yami is mad at him, and he says he's not, he just wanted to fight Yami, which made Luck more interested in him because even he just didn't want to deal with that. But after all of this, then Asta gets his black robe but refuses his headband because he looks kind of lame, which makes Magna a little pissed. And then he gets introduced to where things are and where he will be sleeping, and thanks Magna, then goes to sleep. The next day he's woken up by Magna and is shown around the base where things are, like the bathroom, because their house is really complicated, and he meets the animals. And once he sticks his hand out to try and pat them, one of them tries to bite his arm off. And Magna says, Asta, watch out. But Magna surprises Asta's hand is completely fine, and he asks, how are you fine? I'm pretty sure that thing bit off your hand. Asta then says, when I want, I can become completely intangible. But even if I did, I would probably just regenerate in about a day, I think. and Magna just says, "You're a really weird kid." They then hear footsteps and turn around to see Noelle, and she introduces herself to Asta and asking what family he's from. And when Asta says he's a commoner, she gets offended for no reason at all and starts insulting Asta for even gazing at her. And Asta says, "Shut up. If you're here to prove dominance, don't bother. I'm way stronger than you anyway." Noelle, being mad, creates a water ball and sends it at Asta, but when Asta was about to unsheath his sword, the water takes a turn and hits Magna instead and pisses him off. And then Noelle runs away in embarrassment, and Magna asks, "What the hell was that? I thought she was mad at you." Asta just shrugs his shoulders, not really knowing what the hell just happened, and then they head off together back to the tour, and also for Magna to drive himself off. After the tour ends, as the newbie, Asta has to do some chores, such as cleaning and feeding the animals, and after he does so, he heads out to train for a bit. And when he steps out, he hears the sound of water sloshing and heads towards it to see Noelle trying to aim at a tree, but she's just missing and her water balls just disperse. Noelle notices that Asta's been watching her for a while now as she takes a little break, and when he's getting closer and closer, due to her trauma with her family, she starts to create her gigantic water ball, pushing back Asta a bit. And that's where I'm gonna leave it off. I hope you guys like this, and I'm setting a like goal for it. The like goal is 50, and we have I'm gonna give a deadline to this one. The deadline will be in 3 days. If you guys can get 50 likes in 3 days, I'll continue the series. If you can't, I'll just stop it. But if you have any other series you would like to do, comment them down below. And sorry for the one who suggested this, but it's gotta be enjoyable for everyone. I'm sorry, but if you have the one who suggested this and you know who you are, if you have better ideas, just suggest them to me and we'll see. And yeah, I hope you guys like and subscribe and turn on post notifications and share this to anybody else who wants to see what is. And I will see you guys in the next video.